Hey there, welcome back to Creepy Encounters. In today's video, my catechist was a creep. I'm not sure if this belongs here. Let me know if it doesn't so I can delete it, please. Also, English isn't my first language, so I don't know how to say a few things. Anyway, when I was 14 or 15, my parents told me it was time for me to get confirmed. Confirmation is when you reaffirm your faith in the Catholic Church, and typically you do it at ages 14 to 17 and classes last either 1 or 2 years. I kind of didn't want to go but ended up enrolling. I was excited when I found out we were going to have a young catechist. I always felt like someone closer to my age was able to explain things to me in a way I could understand better. He was a 26-year-old guy who seemed nice enough. Everything was good at first. He was kind of funny and cool, we all admired him. He had taught another group before us and they all loved him. He would even hang out with them outside of church, which I now sort of consider a red flag, but I might just be biased. They would tell us how he would pick them up and take them to eat and stuff. Mind you, he was 26 and these kids were no older than 17. Everyone in our class, except for one girl, liked him. I just figured she was a little mean or something, but the thing about her is that he'd known her for years already. He lived close to her and would try to talk to her when she got off the bus from school and things like that. Thinking back on it, I wonder how she even stayed in his class at all, and then I remember that her mom pretty much loved the dude. At first, my dad was kind of grossed out by this guy. My dad said there was something off about him, but none of us saw it. I personally felt a little upset that my dad would talk that way about one of my favorite people. I think about it now and it grosses me out so much. But as time went by and I told my dad about the good things this guy did, my dad figured maybe he was wrong. Still, he warned me never to stay alone with him anywhere, just for my own safety. For the record, my dad would never allow me to be in a situation where I might be in danger. He just wanted me about this the same way he would have warned me about staying with any other older man alone. A couple of friends and I did stay alone with him a couple of times, but I would always feel uneasy, partly because I had my dad's words in the back of my mind, but also because it just felt wrong. One thing this man would do was that he would read us. I now realize he was very good at manipulating people, but back then when he would tell us I can read people. I can look at someone and know exactly who they are. Would you like me to tell you what I see in you? He knew some of us were insecure 14 to 16-year-olds, seeking validation, and took advantage of it. Even though it hasn't been that long since this happened, I don't remember many things anymore. I do remember he would try to set us aside and try to make us feel special. I also attended early college, which resulted in me seeing him at school a couple of times. I would spend the first half of my days at the high school, and the other half at the community college he was also attending. At first it was cool seeing him, but sometimes he just seemed way too excited to be running into his 15-year-old student, him being 27 at this point. He didn't show up the day of our confirmation, which was very annoying. He never gave us an explanation for this. Finally, one of my friends told me something I had been unaware of for 2 years. This man would text every girl in the class who had Facebook. I didn't, thankfully. He would tell them things like, "Hello, my beautiful princess and my beautiful girl." My friend would sometimes be like, "Don't call me that," but he didn't stop. I also forgot to mention that at some point in those 2 years, he'd become one of the coordinators of the youth group I was a part of. So he would talk to us more and send the girls texts non-stop urging them to go. My friend stopped answering at some point, but this guy kept saying, "Hey, hi, good morning, princess," and stuff like that, like reading the room. She showed me her conversation with him on Messenger and there were about 47 "hey, beautiful" messages from him. All of which she had ignored, but that didn't stop him from sending more. The thing is that even though I never felt fully comfortable around him, I never imagined he would be harassing my friends. That's when it hit me that the reason why the girl who lived in his neighborhood didn't like him, was that he was a creep. After I found out about that, I hated seeing him in youth groups. I felt uncomfortable and honestly unsafe. He would hug me for a little too long every time he would see me and I hated it, but I didn't want anyone to think I was rude. I was very different back then, and I did my best to avoid him. The thing that got me was that one day, he pulled me aside when our youth group reunion was over. I had been avoiding him for a bit now and I felt very uneasy, so I made sure to stay in the same room as everyone else, just a little bit on the side. He began by apologizing for not showing up to our confirmation and went on about how glad he was to have met me. He had learned so much from me, blah blah. He ended by telling me that to make up for not showing up to our confirmation, he had gotten all of us a present, but I would be the first to receive mine. He handed me a little box, I said thanks, and left with my friends. I've always been a really nervous person, so by the time I got in my mom's car, I was shaking like crazy. I opened the box and it was a beautiful cross from a cathedral in another city. It was an interesting feeling to have it. I wanted nothing from this guy, but at the same time, it was a cross, so I felt guilty to toss it or give it away or ignore it. But I didn't feel good having it. I kept it in its box for a few weeks, trying to decide what to do with it. I know I sound dramatic, but that's just me, so yeah. Finally, I spoke to a few of my classmates and asked them if they'd received a present for him, as he stated he would give a present to every single one of us. My heart sank when they told me they hadn't received anything from him, even though they had seen him around. I spoke to a few of the girls in my class and they told me about their texts with this guy. I was mind blown as to why none of them had said, or thought anything of it, until my friend and I brought it up. I guess we all just assumed there was nothing wrong with his behavior because he was a catechist and we admired him. Suddenly, I felt too uncomfortable to attend our youth group meetings anymore and thought that was the end of that. My parents would ask me what had changed and why I didn't want to go, but I somehow felt guilty about the whole situation. One night I finally told them about this creep and they were pissed. They urged me to speak to the other youth group coordinators, but I was a little worried, so I spoke to someone else I trusted instead. They told the coordinators, who later reached out to me. The coordinators were young, but there were also two older people sort of overseeing everything to make sure we'd all be okay. The older lady spoke to me and let me know that I wasn't the only one to express my concerns about this guy. A few other people had already complained about him as well, and they had spoken to him already. She said they'd deal with it. I'm not sure what they told him or arranged with him, but he never showed up to our youth group again. Not only that, but he apparently stopped attending our church altogether. Occasionally, my family and I would attend another church that was closer to our home, and I saw him there a couple of times. It was very uncomfortable. I always sort of hide behind my parents and leave last to make sure he was gone by the time we left the church. I also saw him one time after that at the community college, but thankfully I was with a group of friends, so they all sort of shielded and hid me from his view until we left. I recently ran into one of my old classmates and she told me he actually called her a couple of times, asking her to go out with him and stuff. Her dad heard him call one day and proceeded to cuss him out through the phone. He never bothered her again. That reminded me of one time when he told me he was scared of my dad, which I'm so thankful for. He always knew my parents took care of me and probably felt too scared to harass me like he did the rest of my female classmates. Again, I know it sounds dramatic, but it was extremely uncomfortable. I just hope I never see him again. Edit, I forgot to mention that I ended up giving the cross he gave me to the girl I spoke to about it. I told him how uncomfortable I felt having it but didn't want to throw it away either, so she told me I could give it to her. Second edit, I don't mean to make it seem as if all catechists are creeps. I do believe there should be some sort of background check in order to make sure creeps aren't allowed to be catechists. However, I'm not sure if that's a thing now, but if it isn't, it should. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real-life creepy encounters around the world. See you in the next video. Bye.